So what am I talking about when I talk about DNA testing or genetic testing? Well, in this instance, I'm talking about a test that has been specifically designed to identify a gene that is mutated. Now, these mutated genes cause medical conditions. Some of them are very minor, some of them are very severe. In the case of the Welsh Spaniel, the three that they are predisposed to are pretty severe. Not all dogs have the same genetic problems, some are not even linked to others, but the tests are designed to individually spot these mutated genes that cause these problems. Now, because these genes have been specially designed to target the mutated gene that they know about, the accuracy on these tests is super high. Basically, and the simplest way to describe it is that the test is looking to see if the gene is there. Is it there? Is it not? And therefore you don't get any ambiguity in the result. It is either a yes or a no, and therefore you don't get any false positives, false negatives. In fact, the only way you can get a dodgy test result would be to have the sample contaminated, which would happen at collection. Maybe you've got too many dogs near you, you've got DNA from 2 dogs on your hand, and you end up contaminating your sample with the other one. I did hear of a story of a lady who asked her husband to go and sample one of her dogs, and he sampled the wrong dog. So obviously in that case, that mistake would have meant those tests were totally inaccurate. So the next question you had is probably, well, how do these genes mutate? Well, there is 2 reasons. The first reason is extremely rare, and that is down to just random chance. Environment can play a part in that, but even though it is still very, very rare. The most common reason for genes to mutate is the breeding being too close together, too high an inbreeding coefficient. Now, whether that's dogs we're talking about, humans, or any other species, you breed too close together and you get problems. Conservation organisations say that an inbreeding coefficient of 10% is high enough to be safe so that we don't get mutated genes, but low enough to make sure that we still have a good diversity of the gene pool. And when I was talking with genetic scientists, they were saying that this diversity of the gene pool is so important. At one point they were saying that there are certain lines that have certain, they called them genes within genes. I don't think that's the technical term, but it's the way he explained it to me so that I could understand it. And he said some of these lines have genes within genes. He said other lines don't have that. He said, and when you start breeding too close together, 20, 25, 30, 35% inbreeding coefficients, he said a lot of this genetic data is lost. A lot of these genes within genes don't show up. He said, we know these genes do good things, but we don't know exactly what they do. But certainly losing things that do good genes could be, I guess, a way as to why they do mutate. So when you have genetic scientists who have got laboratories and teams of scientists behind them, all with very clever degrees and everything like that, and they're still saying there's new things that they're trying to figure out and work out. And then you get a breeder who says, well, I've bred for years, I can breed close together because I know what I'm doing. Sorry, don't believe you. That's your ego talking. So, looking at these conditions, how are they transmitted? How do they get within a breed and how do they pass around in the breed? Well, they're nothing like things like cancer. They don't just appear randomly. So you might have cancer that pops up in a dog here, or a dog there, or a dog there, and there is just no rhyme or reason. There's just no correlation. That's not how it works with these DNA disorders. They are hereditary. So you could have a dog that has a condition, could be the father or the mother of a litter, and when they mate, the genetic problem is passed to some or all of those pups, and then those pups, when they're old enough, will mate and it will pass to their pups, so on and so forth. So you can see how easy it can get out of control. And I'll show you a couple of examples in the next video as to how, if we are testing, that is all very, very controllable. But this is the joy of this type of disorder, if there is a joy to it. Once you're testing, it's very easy to spot where it's come from, where it's going to, which means you can identify individual dogs, individual lines that have these conditions. And the scientists were saying the important thing is that when you find these dogs, we don't exclude them from the breeding program. We need to, what they call, breed through it. So by selective and careful breeding, you can get that line, you can get rid of the genetic problem, and you can improve that line's health by getting rid of it totally. So it is so important that we keep the genetic pool of the Welsh Spaniel as broad as we can. I'll explain a little bit more about that in the next video. So if the testing will allow us to improve lines, I'm going to say this question several times: why would we not test? Especially if you're breeding, why would we not test? Because it can only help the breed. So taking a test, dead simple. You can either go to the vet, they'll take blood, put it in your paperwork, send it back to the company, and they'll give you some results. The way I tend to do it is through a swab method, which is like a large earbud that the DNA company will send to you. You take that and you rub it inside the cheek of your dog for 20 seconds or so. Once you have done that, put it on the side, let it dry, fill out your paperwork, pay your fee. Now your fee is anything from 40 to sort of £60 per test. So the Welsh Spaniel, there's 3 conditions, so 3 tests, and that's roughly £150. You then send it all off to the company and they will send you back your test results. Very simple, very cost effective. Why wouldn't you test? It's so easy. So in the next video, I'm going to talk about what these DNA test results are and how they link into the Welsh Springer Spaniel.